My first trade was in 1987 at the Washington, D.C. convention. I was working the rose float pin, my first convention, and the guy in the booth next to us wanted the rose float pin. At that time, we couldn't sell pins. So I asked Homer Mertz, who's the chairman at that time, a long-time bigwig in the district, if I could get a pin. And he said, sure, I'll take care of you. So I gave the guy my pin, and we traded. And during that convention, I traded about 10 pins. The following year, I traded 25 pins at the Seattle convention. 2 years before 87, 1985, Howard Dole was the governor, and he made a pin. That was the very first district pin. It wasn't a state shape in the color of blue, and it was the black sheep pin. The year after, I know he's got one here. Wayne Hoff was governor, and he used the owl as his theme. He made 2 pins. This was his membership pin, Kiwanis 2, and another one which we don't have, which is a big, just the shape of the owl. The year after, Bob Jolly was governor, and he had nothing, so he made a Crusader pin. So that was the first 3 pins in Cal-Nev-Ha, and the first 3 really district pins were made that were what we call commemorative pins. I was lieutenant governor under Bob Jolly in 1987, and I made the very, very first lieutenant governor pin ever. And actually, the governors looked down their noses at me. How dare he make a pin? And now you know that division and club pins have become very popular over the years, especially in Cal-Nev-Ha. I learned right away, if I didn't have a pin that people wanted, they wouldn't trade for me. So I had my pin, so I traded with somebody, but if they wanted a second pin, they wouldn't trade. And all I was doing was, give me yours and I'll give you mine. Well, some of the people said, okay, I'll take a second one. So I started getting duplicate pins. And I immediately found that if I had a variety of pins, then people would trade with me. It didn't matter if it was my pin or their pin, and that's when it grew. So every year I'd make 2 or 3 new pins. I'd make a club pin, and for the divisions we'd have governor visit pins. I got active with the Rose Parade Committee, and we made pins for different events. We made the day of the races. So people like awards and recognitions. And I also learned that if you had a club pin and you gave it to the speaker, it was cheaper than a pen or a coffee cup. You gave one to your people that help you as volunteers. You give a pin to your sponsored youth. You give it to the membership. Some people would sell them to the members. They raised money that way. Some had fundraisers. If they had a barbecue, they'd have a pin every year, or a festival of some. But over the years, at first, the majority of the bigger collectors were using the Rose Float Pin Company to make their pins. One of the guys in the Baldwin Park Club was a sales manager, and they gave us a decent price. And he left the company, went on his own, but he unfortunately wasn't selling enough pins. He went out of business. So we started using a factory in Taiwan. It was owned by a Kiwanis former trustee. The trustee had the company for his son, so his son had a job. And he's still in business today. In 2011, I actually saw a pin with his back stamp on it. It was used by Roy Bird here at the Geneva Convention as a campaign pin. What happened was, this was before the internet was big, and we would fax our instructions to Jeffrey, that was the guy's name, in China or Taiwan, and he would interpret the letters one word at a time. It took forever. And he made mistakes. Nobody was happy with his quality. I got interested in other kinds of pins other than Kiwanis, and one of the guys I got to meet says, I got a factory in China, and they have an office in Los Angeles. So I contacted them and became a wholesaler. So I was buying for less than Jeffrey was selling. Landed. My friend said, Howard, if you can get us the pins at Jeffrey's price, we'll buy from you, because they saw the quality I had. And I started my pin company. And unfortunately for me as a collector, we started making 90% of the Kiwanis pins. It was Condor Creations. So I got my collection up to about 4,000 pieces, and I donated it to the foundation about 10 years ago. And they were supposed to put it on display. Well, Dee Drell was curating the collection, and he kept adding to it, and it became 6,000 pins. Now, Kiwanians are not known for pin collecting like Mayans are. 6,000 different pins, a lot of pins. In 2010, Kiwanis decided they didn't have the room to display it, and they took possession of the pins, and they tried to auction it off and didn't publicize it very well. So one guy bid on it, and he said, well, your bid's not high enough, and it didn't reach our minimum, so we'll put it on eBay. Well, he was the only bidder again, and he got it. But he subsequently donated more money to the foundation. Dee Drell is our historian and curator. He has 7,300 pins, all different, all unique. Some of them are variations, some of them are different colors, but mostly different and unique Kiwanis. Over the years, as I was trading with different people, I developed a lot of friendships. And I know most of the international presidents personally, trustees, governors, Kiwanians from all over the world. And one time I felt I was the best known Kiwanian worldwide other than the international officers. I mean, we all know people in different districts and divisions, but I've got friends all over the world. The best thing about the trading is every pin has a story. And I would sit and talk with the people. I learned about their projects, about their fundraisers, about their community service, what they did. I could bring those ideas back to my club better than the seminars. The seminars are important, and I go to seminars. But the one-on-one with Kiwanians from around the world, whether it's at the pin trading booth, at a seminar, or on the bus, I learned so much. It wasn't just the collecting. And today, I enjoy the trading so much. I sit with the collectors. I don't have a personal collection anymore. And I sold the pin company to my son-in-law, and he's still making the majority of the Kiwanis pins. Luckily, I trained him good. He's now even making pins for Kiwanis International. Last couple of years, he was making the convention pins. Example, last night I had dinner with a former trustee from Louisiana. There were 8 of us. One person from Cal-Nev-Ha, the other 6 were from Louisiana. Just one year I've gone to about 5 or 6 different district conventions around the country. One year I hosted a dinner for the international president at his host convention in Florida. We had a couple of past governors that were good friends of mine. When K-Kids was first formed, it was not an official Kiwanis sponsored youth program. Lamar Hunt from Florida was the person that came up with it, and he sold the pins to the clubs. When he became governor, he asked me to handle that. So I was actually the supply department of K-Kids for a couple of years, and then Kiwanis International took it over. But I've enjoyed my collecting. I also deviated. I started collecting hard rock pins for a while. I had the 4th largest collection in the world. And then around the time I sold the company, I got interested in Disney pins. For 6 years, I went to Disneyland 3 days a week just to trade pins. I had 10,000 different pins. My wife had about 3,000 or 4,000. And that was just our collections. Our duplicates were in the hundreds of thousands, so we had different variety of traders. It was a lot of fun. And I gave that up 3.5 years ago. Left California and moved to Texas. So now I'm having fun, and thank you for listening to my pin story. And you know, along the years, I helped a lot of collectors. People become collectors. And as Dee Drell says, 1 pin's nice, 2 pin, you got a collection. So you're hooked on 3. Some people just take the award. Some people start trading 1 or 2, and they go better. But if you are becoming a collector, having a variety of pins. Trade with somebody. If they want a pin you have, trade. Take the duplicate. Someday, somebody's going to want that pin. I have a pin right here that was in 1991 at the Anaheim Convention. We had maybe 5 collectors. There were 100 people in the room trading pins. I don't know how many pins were traded of this one. I ended up with 100 of them. Within 5 years, mine were gone. So What I'm showing you are pins out of Bob's collection. And he just happens to have a lot of old pins. For many years, he would only trade if he had a pin he wanted. So he had some of the older pins he never traded off. Now he's trading for traders. He's having more fun and getting more pins for his collection. So he makes a pin every year, trades that. Of course, people come by, they don't want his pin, or they want multiple pins. So he's got big variety. Most of the fellows that are here today brought some of their pins. They didn't bring all of their traders because of the distance from the United States to Geneva. So enjoy the pins you have, whether they're awards or somebody gave it to you as a thank you, or you bought a pin at the convention or somewhere else. One of the things I've observed is you give a pin to somebody, they don't throw it away. They'll put it in a drawer. They may not wear it, but they keep it. Dee gave a seminar in Las Vegas last year. At the end of the seminar, he says, by the way, I've got a pin I'd like to share with you. Anybody that would like this pin is more than welcome to it. There are about 100 people in the room. He gave out 100 pins. They all lined up. They don't care what it is. They want a pin. You've got it. You're giving it away. They'll take it. It's a souvenir. It's fun. Thank you.